because the next 2 days are gonna be weird because I have relatives over, meaning I'm gonna have a hard time finding time to actually record or stream. 20th February, 9:23 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Nice. I too also had some tea before I came in to do this because some nice hot tea really helps the throat. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? I mean, it's kind of your job, so. We are on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may as well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that... Hello, DG Shoes. You're quite right. Good morning! Soseki! Mr. Natsumi, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Oh, Soseki! And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Stressed and bloodshot from the looks of it. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsumi. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. You're trembling pretty... Yeah. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Miss Susato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincident then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zeeks? Is that right, Miss Susato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometimes after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The Lord of Darkness! The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeek's return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane? Is the most significant saga of the century to some of us? Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. It's you! Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. Oh, ow. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruto, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck! Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? Why, the least lucky lawyer alive! Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Say, Soseki. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, beloved locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Miss Mikatoba Esquires. These titles are long. I am in your debt, forever. I shall never forget this great Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Right then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yes! Stress. God, just talking to Natsume is causing me stress. This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom, and my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Speaking of Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. Now, do I know how to play a kazoo? No, but I will be practicing as we go. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. The kazoos have arrived. 20th of February, 10 a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. I don't know why I let that type itself out. I should just press the A button to let it go.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. Well, you managed to speak this time, at least, Naruhodo. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you're a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Innocent, you say? Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted, and his unfortunate, violent end.
Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public?
You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. And he's there.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear.
Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow.
I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that mustache foreigner did the deed.
Why are there so many familiar people on the jurors today? Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. There's some familiar faces today.
Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks.
Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with the rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, we are indeed in court. Regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. He didn't kill anyone, though, of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime! I'll tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are!
Just look at that shallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you're in a hurry, sir.
Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in the great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand.
Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please.
Oh boy, it's Gregson time. Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
Olive Green? Well, I guess Viridian Green, Olive Green, sure.
I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be?
Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's victim, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. Comatose? What? So they don't even know who she is for sure?
Huh, comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger?
Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at the street lamp. Street map, not the lamp, excuse me. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please.
Case file. A file containing an overview of the case and details about the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in a hospital, yet to regain consciousness. What of the weapon that was used?
Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back.
Ouch. That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even though the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose.
A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
Jackknife, a large but commonplace folding knife. It was found lodged in the victim's back.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment towards the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting secondhand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Oh! Just throw the whole wine bottle today! Pray, forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. We gotta clean that up, you know! But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. More like shattered glasses of a wine bottle. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student.
Yes, sir.
Natsume's arrest.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring to. I will take that photographic print as evidence. Please, Inspector.
Crime scene photograph. A photograph of the scene taken by a policeman just after the incident occurred. A large knife can be seen thrust into the victim's back. You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything as you put it. What are you doing, Mrs. Sato? What do you think? Telling Brooke to shut up about his bias?
Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened.
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my leg would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
A green overcoat. Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next?
Moving pictures? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. In fact, that the accused concedes.
It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. let's go.
Hold it!
A light fog, you say?
Well, light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much further, though.
That's light, is it?
Around these parts, yes. Not something I expect a Japanese fella like yourself to know, of course.
I don't know, actually. I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. Tch, how quaint.
Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate.
I see.
At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Ugh. Susato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witness to this crime have told us. Ooh, nice! Yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am.
Baby slap! Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen... I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime.
Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. Yeah, well, you know how Britain are. They think they're the biggest thing in the world. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Hold it!
From behind, you say?
That's right, as you can see from this print.
Kinda quaint and cozy. Maybe a little messy.
Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition. Comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's being treated at Bart's.
Bart's.
I was hopeful that she'd come round before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events.
Why are we doing this trial and not waiting for her to come back, though? Luck is on your client's side, it seems. Baby slap. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those undisturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume's belongings.
I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course.
The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example.
He's very clever, isn't he?
What do you mean?
He made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsumi had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there.
You mean to say the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes.
Canterbury Yearnings, the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal with the meal for Gabrielle. Is that it? 2 shillings tender receipt for 3 books. Okay, okay. Map. Rolly Beat, pavement of Briar Row, east side. The victims remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound knife, no other sign of injury. Assailant has seems to be running away by the reporting officer. Okay. Okay. Game? Are you gonna let me examine? I guess not. It just lets me open the knife and close it. Alright. And 3 books. Oof. Alright.
Hold it!
The defendant apparently visits a secondhand bookshop on a daily basis.
Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books.
Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question? Please, Inspector.
Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid.
What do you mean national identification?
The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodging is this place here, Bourbon Books. A little place in the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street? As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end.
Bourbon Books. I don't think we got these. They're your books, not Bourbon. Bourbon.
Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this.
Okay, we updated the map.
Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular stop.
Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being the bookshop's name. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance.
Maybe?
Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. No.
Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say.
Could the man be any more sardonic?
He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand shop he apparently patronizes.
Hold it!
You asked for the help of the famous detective Herlock Sholmes to locate the defendant, I believe.
I didn't ask personally. Stuff and nonsense.
Sorry?
That jack in office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his oar in whatever we ask him or not.
But according to what I have here, Mr. Sholmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives.
Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the scene must have done it without my permission. I tell him time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters. Then follow your bloomin' instructions.
I see.
If that meddler gets his hand on any details, we'll all be reading it in Rand's magazine next month. And you can bet your last farthing that I'll be in there too, stripped of all my hard work on the case. Yes, Mr. Sholmes. No, Mr. Sholmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Sholmes? That's all the thanks I'd be getting.
Inspector, if the man is proving detrimental to the Yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him.
Nah!
How about no?
It appears Inspector Gregson is lost for words.
Yes, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously.
Anyway, the point is that little Japanese bloke's already admitted it. He admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he brought that day.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? If you're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid
Then Mr. Natsumi's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector testimony. I paid money for that. Alright, we're presenting the receipt.
Objection!
If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson.
What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
You're on the witness stand. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 secondhand books.
And you found that in the accused's room, did you? The accused?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your books? Y-O-R-E, I presume.
Yes, my lord. So, Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a secondhand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Eh? What?
Your books of your...
Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Why, yes, sir. Your Books is another secondhand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... Well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
Objection!
Stop making assumptions! But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Objection!
I disagree. I mean, after all,
I have the street map here, if that might help.
Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. It absolutely could be right.
Rubber, 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 rubber. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Mearsham Street, going east.
More updates. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now, he could still go the same route. Oh, he just realized. Oh, fascinating. I'm just gonna pair this wine and drink some wine. Sorry. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticism. To your future career in the circus.
You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you.
Susato is seeking violence today. Didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from your books instead of bourbon books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed.
Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Allow me to relate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Rip. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. Ah!
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try.
What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up.
What do you mean?
If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty.
She's absolutely right.
We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully.
They claim Soseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but let's raise an objection. What if we went the other way? The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourselves, counsel.
Yes, my lord.
You can see what I mean on this map.
When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodging without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Oh yes, he'll take the long route. Makes total sense. Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around. We're figuring out which way Soseki went right now. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
Yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. He's getting desperate. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. Oh, God, thanks, Natsume. Huh? That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. Great. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? Well, I guess we're doing another summation examination. But even if that is the case, the defense... Hold it! Oh, he doesn't have a hold it noise. Okay, I agree with Lord Van Zeeks wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean we're in trouble? We members of the jury are completely convinced now.
Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! 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 Guilty!
That is not the voice I was expecting, Mr. Gruffman that's next to Miss Joan Garrett.
It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous.
Me too, Naruhodo. Me too. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo.
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of Corey, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Guilty.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncas refusal to throw in his alley.
Very well then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
The judicial findings. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted himself, didn't he? Hi, Lewis! Oh shit, I've been raided.
It said if he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why it can only have been the victim.
I was hosting your stream today too, by the way, Lewis. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. Welcome to the Great Ace Attorney, where the trials is a circus.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Nice, congratulations on beating Super Metroid.
Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit.
What in the world, Juror 6? This is not gonna help us, the great circus attorney.
With only minor exceptions, the reason for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear.
Were you the voice of Juror 6? I don't even remember. You did! Okay. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes.
Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear. Even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now.
Ugh. Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense?
Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue...
Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least. Lewis voiced several characters in my LP of DGS a while ago.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Ryonose. You can do it. And I just mispronounced his name. You know what? I get one mistake of mispronouncing his name. There's a lot, okay? But at least, like, no one has super heavy accents this time.
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started frolicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry? Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock... Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. Poor lady first. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history.
Oh dear. I wonder what's become of Mr. First now.
I hope he's doing okay.
Hold it!
You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him.
Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit.
But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman.
Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly. Honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes.
But if that's a lie as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Apparently his mustache is disturbing.
Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds?
And holy crap, she's really racist. I think I remember her freaking script was... She had a lot more nastier things to say if I remember in the script. I could tell you what's going on through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it.
I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you are too kind, my lord.
That went well, for her. Okay. Hold on, I want to read that again. She said, there's a woman in okay, I think I know what I need to do in a little bit.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that he shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Everything's against me. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yes. Why is all this true? So, really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. You're not doing a great job at that. I have given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did. He did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone to the Calabash Roadway, it'd be different.
I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. A reason why Soseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one.
I think I know someone who can give it to me, and why is she here?
Hold it!
Why are you here? His face is my face.
Whatever is the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garrett, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room.
The master's wife? Where did you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand.
She's keeping up that charade? Ugh, this is gonna be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd be selected for the jury in this trial, I mean.
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. And if you recall, we were on the Nintendo 3DS and we are very limited on resources, so you know. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodgings in your master's house, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this?
Oh my goodness, yes! He's just the sort.
What?
Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache.
Again with the mustache!
The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something.
What?
Oh dear, poor Mitsu Natsume. How could people say such things to him? About him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more.
Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. This will take as long as it takes. Maybe it should have been this will take as long as it needs. It might flow a little better. I mean, it's still a sentence. It's just double takes in the same sentence is a little... Don't get clever with me now, son. My life is on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. And if I don't work, I don't eat. And neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late, the work's taken. It's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn to dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right. Meerschaum Street it was. Meerschaum Street.
On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets.
Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Ugh. Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging on Meerschaum Street from dawn to dusk, and I know who I gotta give that to.
Hold it!
Sorry? Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was, hold it. This old guy. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have just been before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see? Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry, not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Oh no, this poor guy. Knocked myself clean, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Huh? Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite all right now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsumi's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsumi of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Okay. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. Fight, fight, fight! Okay, hold on. We need this one. And this one. Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, counsel? Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. What? I just want to get this done and dusted. I love that guy's pose. Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implication of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Mearsome Street, making it impassable. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Mearsome Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes! My lord, my judge, sir, if I may.
Yes?
I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. Good man. Too bad, I think there's actually 2 summations in this case. What about you, sir? Who? Me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in. That's what I say. I don't get paid enough for this, though.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful.
Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It's strengthened our position somewhat.
Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current learnings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume.
I got another one for you. I just gotta get there.
We might be able to tip the balance completely.
Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Manzeus is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal.
Thank you, Counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord. I have to say not guilty at this point, so I can see where this trial goes from here. Whether it's digging up roads or digging up the truth, you've got to see it through to the end, haven't you? Alright, we got this guy. With the lady. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning.
A flaw? What are you talking about, Counsel?
Well, juror number 2. Juror number 6.
My, whatever do you mean, sir?
I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot.
But the man said he has no recollection of his return journey.
That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes.
Yes, we are all aware of all this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Can we really be sure of that, madam?
My, whatever do you mean?
I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy sheets in the neighborhood.
Oh my!
My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6.
Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes, was the jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today?
That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that!
My goodness me.
Sorry, you need a pee? You need a pee? I don't need a pee yet right now, sir. And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell.
On Calabash Road.
And therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. It's home. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home.
Oh my!
You idiot old man! If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, huh? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Is it? Aw, this guy's trying to stay hip. Hold it! I don't know who's talking. Her.
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would, And that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
And I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well, hogwash.
He's just like, bam! I'm gonna drink my water while this is happening.
Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion.
I mean, he does have a unicorn staff.
The A's 2, the no's 4. So the no's have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Oh boy. That's 3 sips of his wine so far. Someone should keep track how many times he actually drinks from his wine. Could it seem churlish to me to drink from my hollow chalice most moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them failing for a trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh?
Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right. Took me the whole day and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Oh, this poor guy. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters.
Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. Boy, I wish the United States would actually switch to the metro system, but it's never gonna happen. We tried it once, and then, I don't know, I guess it just didn't work out. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway, and we just turn our gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. Oof. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meandering around town.
Is that true, is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsumi walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. I mean, Baroque is tall, but have you considered how tall Vortex is? And Jigoku? Jigoku and Vortex are tall as heck. Oh, no, not Jigoku. Vortex and Harry Barricade. They're tall as heck. And Old Man.
Cold man, you can talk.
Cold Man. You say that at around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. I'm not tall as heck. Hi, Tony. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at that time?
Oh, I can't say I remember.
You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw. But I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Broke's theme is so good.
Order! Order! Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself.
My lord.
If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination?
Sir, I believe it's against the rules for the prosecution to interrupt the summation. I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. Oh, the cape's off! The cape's off! We're serious now! So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Oh, it's the couple. Here comes the couple.
Granted, bailiff. Bring forth the witnesses.
It's next witnesses.
Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident.
Are they both named Pat? Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less.
I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness.
All right. No matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as his witnesses, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Right, I vaguely recall they just switched them. Witnesses, please state your name and occupation for the court. God, these two. Why is Rolla a bad word? Hello.
Constable Rolly beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
Yeah, okay. He was Pat, and the girl was Rolla. Which, when you put their names together, it's Patrol. That's the joke. And he's back to sleep.
And I'm Miss Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town's hero's wife.
Pat and Patrol. What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I sure have heard that before, actually.
Indeed. Apart from the rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're overworked, holy crap. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
That's too many responsibilities!
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like police duties at all.
They sound like chores. Micro disagrees. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? Okay, the Nightbot does not like the word Rolla.
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly? Constable beat, Rolly beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
What a great witness he's going to be.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir.
What the witnesses saw.
It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appear out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Is it? Oh dear. This policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's def nil, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place.
What an unfortunate chancing. And on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that.
Gosh, the life of a London bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed. However, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without a doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. Poor Rolly. Okay, let's press this lady. Let's go.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Gina has something to say to that. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
Jeez.
I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You are going for a meal after you have finished your beat for the day, correct?
Really? I feel like you would probably want to interview with my translator, though. I just read scripts.
That's right, sir, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end.
What's that now?
My word card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to us policemen of our sworn duty.
Boy, I need commas. There needs to be more commas. But I guess to be fair, these are not meant to be read out loud.
To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man.
I'm not sure if I want to unlock that one.
Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble.
Like, if I wasn't also, like, streaming and posting this on YouTube, then yeah, but I'm not gonna unlock that, I think.
Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoner's needs to hear to feel safe and secure.
Aww. Well, we had a good time just talking about it. You have to thank KV because he did brought it up himself, and I was like, oh, I know this stuff. So fighting crimes doesn't appear to come into it then.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Oh my god.
Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps?
And then, kindly describe what happened next.
I'm assuming yes. I mean, yeah, Bobby, I guess that's what it is. When I went through this on the Japanese version, my translator called them the beat officers. Beat coppers. I don't have to read that. No, I don't have to read that. It's British slang. Two silhouettes.
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby?
And, yeah, oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see.
There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Oh, yes, that's right. Of course. There was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lining as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians.
Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure what you just said?
Yes, sir. As a couple who spends all day, every day, keeping watch on the street, I swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Oh my god. They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsumi, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly.
Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
Hold it!
Scattered something.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time, but then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling?
Later, DG Shoes! Thanks for sticking around.
What? Oh, yes, that's right. It were some old books. I see. Old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them, all around where the victim laid on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Hold it!
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker.
But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything.
Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at that poor defenseless woman who was, with those terrifying, intense eyes, and then suddenly threw his books into the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Yeah, well, sorry, I don't trust the cops. Now please continue.
Yes, sir. Ugh.
This poor guy.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am a proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
You're gonna choke this poor guy.
Oh yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of the crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
It depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat of the incident fell under, so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know?
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh, please, you're making us blush, isn't he, darling?
He just wants to sleep.
Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir.
Let's move on, shall we?
Hold it!
But surely, you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know, and
Oh my god! Right.
the light from the street lamps is more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is! It is! When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you please stop shaking your husband about?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see? That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Let the man sleep!
Oh, yes. It was the accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taunt mouth, the snub-nosed, etc., etc. Unmistakable, sir.
As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but in hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsumi running away from the scene on Briar Road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no. Then what do we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here...
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
I'm sorry, they brought up Kazuma. What do you mean, somewhere else?
Their statements about seeing Mr. Natsumi is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right. I want to press on the books, I think.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Ugh. Why do I always seem to be so up against it? Phoenix right blood, I guess.
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Okay, never mind. I guess I had to press everything. That was the plan. Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right, is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. Oh no, it's really not that at all.
My husband is a policeman, remember?
No one cares he's a policeman. It doesn't matter.
And I know what I saw.
A policeman is still a human being.
I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped?
I was about to point out the books, actually.
I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dared to question how reliable my testimony is.
Please stop shaking your husband.
That will do, Mrs. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Roy really will.
I think Roy just wants to sleep. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fist down.
Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely.
Oh god, the art and the music and everything is great. You should definitely get it, Tony.
Wouldn't it, darling? Wouldn't it, darling?
It's a proper, despite the fact that it takes place in the past, it's a very proper modernized Ace Attorney game. 4 books. We have 3 books in the photo, ma'am. Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved...
Don't let him sleep in the snow.
He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime.
Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with the tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you listening? There was The Picture of Mere Somebody or Other, and What's It Yearnings, and then there was, A Meal for Someone, and the last one was definitely The Thingamies Something. You see?
That was awful. I'm not right now. That was awful. Very awful. Awful. Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Oh, well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure.
Though there were indeed books found at the scene with the titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Oh, he's got a gun!
Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to.
He brought the gun! Sir, maybe don't give the sleepy man the gun. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. No, they've been slightly adjusted. but it was gonna take me a bit to actually go find it in the script. I have the script, but it's just gonna take me a bit to locate it. Oh, I have to go all the way down to the trial. Okay, I'm gonna skip this because this is a dialogue I've already read, so let's go. They had to change some of the titles, so... But I'll have to dig it through the script, which is a long-ass script, so... alright. Where does she put the description? There were 4 books, you say. Okay,
Objection.
There are 3 books in the picture, ma'am. So, you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right. I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Thingo-Me Something.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat, but there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no. What flaw?
Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4.
What?
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry?
It's a big old lump of a dead body. The lady's so large her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book. That's all.
Let's at least try to remember that the poor woman isn't dead, even if we're insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But Mr. Natsumi could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you described.
Why not?
Fascinating. And from your sure tones, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume. Yeah, actually. Evidence.
Counsel, you will present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have that the accused did not drop 4 books?
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt.
From your books?
Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
No!
Yes! Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon. So, it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! No!
Oh, she's such a drama queen.
Objection.
Oh, hello. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my lone Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. And you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? Ugh, he sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony, in every respect.
Oh?
You see, the matter is not for debate. At the scene at Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection.
Okay, that would have been important for the defense to know, but what about the photographic print? Like, this is not even my fault. It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. I don't believe it. Whoa! Whoa! Hold on. I think they changed the graphic. Whoa! Whoa! Now you can definitely tell it's been burnt. Dude, this book was fuller originally. I remember this. The book was like, it was not like cut off like that. They updated it. It's the fourth book. As you will observe, the fourth book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Rubble. I'm still looking for those books, by the way, in the old Japanese script. Order!
There, you see? You see? Look at that. Look.
Yes.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir.
Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. B, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury Yearnings.
A meal for someone?
A meal for Gabriel, in fact. Gabriel? As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book's titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless.
But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print.
I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt?
It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. No, I don't think so. And I think the reason why they changed the graphic for the book is to make it very, very obvious that the characters are now involved. The victim was holding her own book? I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Can we have that book? Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. Yes, can I have that?
You will submit that and the affirmation photographic print to the court, please, Counsel.
My pleasure, my lord. Crime scene photograph number 2. A second photograph of the scene taken by the policeman just after the incident. It specifically shows the victim's hand. The 4th book. The book entitled The Lion's Pride, discovered in the victim's hand at the scene. I'm going to look at this book in a second. The prosecution rest. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused logins that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we said is true. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryanosuke, think. What do you do now? Well, before we do anything, because I don't actually know the answer to that at the moment, I'm gonna look at this book.
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all. Aren't you an English major? So it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride. That's strange. I think I've heard of a book by that name before, and very recently too.
It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, no, I know he's studying English, but he has to have read English literature in his studies.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the later pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
Huh. A book. Recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Book entitled, The Back Cover is Badly Burnt. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to raise an objection or wait and see, but I'm gonna raise an objection because why the heck not?
Objection!
I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate. No, this book, well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't think of what to say. Just present my armband.
If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Your insignificant little eastern island must be a lawless hole indeed. Rude? For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this.
Oh!
Don't take that shit! Don't take that shit from him! I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinion invaluable. Yeah, shut up!
Mr. Naruhodo.
You stay in your corner, Baroque.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mrs. Sato. Please. Bless these two. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their learnings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Well, I just did that, so we're good. Yes, I understand. And thank you, Miss Susato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case, and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we could see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. And the fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grass at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Excuse me, there's a burn on it? Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know.
Yes, I'm afraid, Counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue.
Yes, there is! Oh my god, this is the part I get angry at Ace Attorney because let me present the thing.
So I must insist that you elaborate, Counsel. You identified this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, my lord. It's,
Mr. Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track.
Yes, I think you might be right.
So, Counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which this fourth book conceals?
In the back!
Got it!
I would like to ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back? What are you... Oh, good gracious. It's been burned to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Rubble, 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 rubble.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh. Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day, pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this char book hide? Can I present Joan Garridev? A char book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can assert from the fairy damage this sorry tome has suffered?
Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to.
The victim was gripping it in her hands as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how can you possibly...
I mean, conveniently she's the jury right now. Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry.
Counsel, the defense response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garridev. The landlords. Oh, hey, that's new. Whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garridev herself.
Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir.
Just drop it.
I'm not Mr. Garridev's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garridev's house?
Oh, I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say. You implicate this hardworking member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
Hi, Carmen. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house.
Good lord! What sort of incident, Counsel?
A fire, my lord. Heck, if you guys walk to their place, you'll see it. Afraid to say it was. Happened in a blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. There it is! The Lion's Pride.
By Jove, the very same title that the subject of this debate. Oh, dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All of you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Marital? I was gonna say Marshall, but the I is before the T. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrett was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrett, even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir.
Well, she's pulling your scarf pretty well. I had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh! Up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back against the window, under the heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen.
The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through the window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. And there is no report of the Garrett's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrett household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time and not even remotely? There was a fire, Van Zeeks! There was a fire! Holy crap, this case seems to have dumbed you down a little bit. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Again, there was a fire.
Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, Counsel? Do you honestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrett's wife?
Yes! I believe it's a possibility, my lord.
That's quite enough.
I think it's Mrs. Garrett. Well, one of them is probably the Canterbury Tales.
Well, I hope that everyone can see what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward, a mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly, implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you, that was never my intention, and also you're gaslighting me.
Dragging an upstanding citizen name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failed defense.
Oh,
I should box your ears. That's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
too right. Here we go again. How long have we sat here now, listening to this Nippone spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could have possibly stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me. Sorry, what was that?
Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Vanzix?
I'm gonna pour this wine. In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessary protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to save the best vintage. No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Oh, the leg! If books are your predilation, my learned friend, study them on your own time. Death slam versus leg slam. Let's go. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time?
Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Here we go again.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Thank you for that unambiguous response.
That's twice now. It's over.
Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up.
Miss Susato?
Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet.
You're not suggesting...
Of course. The defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have the tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Attaboy, Naruhodo. Is that to be continue? I think that's to be continue. Hey, we made it! I can actually sit down and figure out if I can find the stupid names of the books.